said that when you go to Kemet school, you became more alert. You more wake up. Your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. When you study what we call classical studies, we must know Medew Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Medew Netcher. So the most achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.
Peace, Etmotep. It's your brother Wajao. Very quickly, this is an after party conversation, brief after party conversation. Don't want to make it too long. Just wanted to continue the conversation from the Real Black Atheist channel that I popped in at the tail end of Bobby West's presentation on I forget the exact title, but it was the racism in Egyptology. He went through a presentation of it, and I popped in on tail and I caught the few last slides that he had, and popped on the channel just to kind of support the points that he was making. These are points that have been made for years about early Egyptology being laced with racism, and the effects of that is trickled down to this very day. And but people don't realize it, because a lot of people may not have studied how Egyptology unfolded, how it has its start, how it unfolded, how the scholarship was influenced by racism, scientific racism, slavery was going on at the time, all of that. And so there was a large movement of racism, global racism, to put down or diminish and demonize a type of human being, as they would say, an entire type of human being, to justify the treatment of those human beings. And so we still are seeing effects of it to this very day, and we see it show itself in these conversations and everything. And so I think one of the points that Unc was making was that in these conversations that we're hearing on the social media platforms, people are actually parroting the racist stance and notions without even knowing it. Some people may know it, but many people may not know that that's what they're repeating and regurgitating, when they have a conversation about the ancient Egyptians and things like that. Whenever race comes into the conversation, DNA comes into the conversation. Now, they didn't mention DNA in the early scholarship, obviously, because the human genome was not mapped until 2003. So you're not going to see DNA discussed when you do research into these scholarly works from early Egyptology up until the year 2003. They don't talk about DNA or anything like that. They were creating and growing and cultivating a pseudoscientific movement of lookership, but styling it under the categories of race, labeling people by the way that people look. And they tried to anchor it in science, which is why it's referred to as pseudoscience, because they were trying to make it scientific. They created it first, but then they tried to anchor it into science by using craniology with skulls, with noses, skulls, facial features, and things like that. That's what they were trying to anchor it into. And, it had its peak, and then it eventually collapsed where it was not feasible to use. But people today are Johnny-come-latelys to the conversation, and this sentiment is still used in the conversations of today. So I think that was one of the points that Unc was making, which is supported. I can't want to show support for those points right there. These are things that I've been saying for a long time. Now, I think I take it a step further than most people that I see around me by, tossing in the trash some of these stances and notions. And I advocate other people to do so. I recommend and suggest other people to do so. Like, for example, Nubian, the whole notion of Nubian, throw it in the trash. The whole notion of the lens of race popping up in these conversations, throw it in the trash. All of that, throw it in the trash. Once you do, everything is like a breath of fresh air. But you won't know that until you do it. So I suggest people to give it a shot, give it a try. Don't bring up DNA when you talk about the Egyptians. Don't bring up race when you talk about the Egyptians. And by doing that, it's going to force you to deal with things as they are, and it's going to put you to work. But people don't like to get put to work, so they want the easy way out, the lazy way out, and they want to bring in DNA, bring in lookership and stuff like that, and talk about this surface, shallow conversation about whether or not the Egyptians are sub-Saharan, super-Saharan, Mediterranean, African, black African, whether they black, whether they white, whether they Negroid, Caucasoid, and all this other nonsense that comes into the conversation, all the while ignoring the genius and accomplishments of the people themselves, and the culture and their ways and how they did things and everything that underlies that, and all the other achievements. Those get tossed to the side. People don't really talk about that. All right. And then when you bring it up, it's like, okay, how does that put food on my table, money in my pocket? So people gravitate towards the lazy, shallow stuff. So anyway, I'm just here to continue the conversation. So the conversation ended with the brother Corey and Sosa. Corey was talking about Mediterranean tulips and having tulips in his backyard, and that he went to the flower shop and he saw some Mediterranean tulips that were much more expensive than the ones in his backyard. And they were Mediterranean tulips because they were grown or brought about through a biosphere in the Mediterranean or near the Mediterranean, whatever the case is. And so that was one of the things he was saying about these tulips and things. And hey, that's cool. Tip my hat to Mediterranean tulips. I'm not into flowers like that. I couldn't tell you anything about the names of flowers. The only flowers I know are the spider plant, the flowers that the house plants that have real big leaves like elephant ears. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get some. If anybody knows the name of those, let me know. Those plants, those house plants that have big leaves like elephant ears, because they're real robust. You can't, they hard to kill. You know what I'm saying? I need some plants that don't need a lot of attention, because I don't want any plants to be dying on me. But anyway, so that's what he brought up. Sosa brought up the Greeks being the Egyptians based on Unk's what Unks was saying about who's an Egyptian. Unk made mention that if you speak the Egyptian language and worship the Egyptian gods, then you're Egyptian. That's one of the points Unk made, and then I think Sosa's injected into that. If that being the case, then the Greeks are Egyptians and so on and so forth. I think that's one of the points that Sosa made. But you all can go check it out, because I don't want to put words in any of these brothers' mouths. Go check it out. But I just fired up this after party in case anybody wanted to continue the conversation, because apparently there's a boxing match on tonight, and I'm not really into sports as I used to be. I couldn't tell you anything from basketball to football to boxing, unless it comes across my timeline or it's a big major fight that it just all over the news. I'll catch wind of it. Other than that, I'm really not into sports like I used to be. And I used to be like a sports fanatic. Man, I could tell you not only players' names, but their stats, their average points in football and everything. But that was that was a while ago. I've been stopped doing that. So anyway, so I guess there's a boxing match on. So he ended his show, and so I just fired up this to continue the conversation, not to be too long, but if anybody wants to come on the panel, I'm gonna put the link, or the link is gonna be posted in the chat right now. So you all want to come on the panel here, you're more than welcome. I don't want to be too long. I'm just continuing the conversation. So yeah, I'll post the link in a second. So if y'all want to come on here, come on in on this panel. And yeah, so if you missed the show that Bobby West did, because Unk retired his name, Unk, right? I gotta get used to that. So Bobby Banger, Bobby West. Let me pin this panel link real quick. All right. If you missed the show, well, I actually missed the first half for sure, so I can't speak to the first half, but I can get the gist of the points that Unk was making by what I did see, and he was going over racism in Egyptology, specifically Petrie, Breasted, Reisner, Glydian or Glidden, and another one whose name escapes me. And they help shape the sentiments that people are trying to still use to this very day when it comes to who the Egyptians are in relation to whether they are African or not, black or not, and so on and so forth. And my stance on that whole thing is, do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Don't even go into that, because that is quicksand. That's quicksand. If you jump in that conversation, you're going to sink. So avoid it. That's it. That's my stance on it. Soon as the person brings up race in a conversation about ancient Egypt or ancient Egyptians, I'm walking out the door. Soon as somebody brings up DNA in a conversation about ancient Egypt or ancient Egyptians, I'm out the door. And I'm just suggesting everybody try that. Just try it. Watch how much relief you're going to have. But at the same time now, it's going to force you to deal with Egypt and put in some work. So I'm warning you. That's my warning. It's going to force you to do that. And if you don't like to do that, then, you're not going to like my suggestion. Period. Because it's easy to argue over whether Egyptians are black or not. It's easy to argue over whether Egyptians are sub-Saharan Africans. And all those to me are retarded conversations. That's to me. Retarded meaning that they slow and stagnate any form of progress. Egypt is on the continent that we call Africa. That should be enough to get past all of the conversation. It's an African country to this very day. It's on the continent of Africa. It didn't break off of the continent and drift out into sea somewhere. It's still where it was in ancient times. Egypt is where it is and where it has always been since its formation. All right. The borders may have, varied and things like that, but it's pretty much in the same spot. So, like, why are we talking about it as if that's something new? Egypt is where Egypt has been. Okay, so on the continent of Africa, that should be enough. If it's not enough, then, what's going on, Chris?
What's up, man? Peace.
Oh, nah, I mean, I don't know if you got what I was saying. So, yeah, I'm just a continuation of the conversation, the whole race conversation again. Yeah, it pops up every now and then, and that's just what it is. So,
Hey, that video on top of them was really good. Was
oh,
it
the
you
one I
that
put in,
posted it?
yeah, in the group.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's why I want everybody to check it out. Yep, it was
it
really
was
good,
really good.
really, really good. Yeah, so what I would like to see, and I'm talking to everybody in the chat who's watching. What I would like to see people do is make a decision, y'all. Make a decision. Ask yourself, is ancient Egypt part of your curiosity? Like, are you curious about ancient Egypt? And rate your curiosity. If you just have a very surface, passive curiosity about Egypt, then, you're not going to be driven or motivated to do much. And nobody should penalize you for feeling that way or demonize you whatsoever. It is what it is. But ask yourself that and analyze or take inventory of your level of curiosity for ancient Egypt. And just be honest. And then nobody should judge you for that. And the reason why I say that is because the expectation should match the reality. So for people who have very little interest in ancient Egypt, they just, they hear about it all the time. They see it in movies. They see the symbols and stuff like that. The Ankh everywhere. People wearing Ankh jewelry and stuff like that. They see the pyramids. Oh my God, the pyramids are still there. All of that surface stuff and everything. If that's where your interest lies and that's it, then cool. Then the rightful expectation is for a person like that not to really put in any work to study or whatever the case is. And that should be perfectly fine. Like, nobody should have a problem with that. The problem comes in is when people who have very little motivation to study about ancient Egypt purchase a microphone, signs up on YouTube and Gmail and Google and create a YouTube channel and then start arguing about ancient Egypt or getting into arguments about ancient Egypt. That is the beginning of the problems. Don't do that. Just be honest and real with your capabilities, your skill or lack thereof and whatnot, and just fall in where you fit in. That's what I would say, and what I'm asking people to do. It's just to do that. But that's not what's happening. I'm really pessimistic about that because I see people arguing about Egypt, but they don't study it. They just talk about things that they lack studies in, and then when they do go and study, because they want to argue the next day with somebody. They're gonna microwave something. They're gonna Google something real quick. They're gonna find something that matches whatever it is that they already think. They're gonna go through a process of confirmation bias. They're gonna just start looking for something that, or somebody that says what they think. They're not gonna do it objective or through rigorous and proper methodology. They wouldn't know proper methodology if it slapped them in the face. So we just got to all be real with it. And that's what I would like to see. People just being real. People who have a focus and motivation and drive to study ancient Egypt, let them do that and lean on them for that. And people need to just stay in their lanes. Like because everybody is good at something, right? So whatever your focus is, and what do you put as a high value for any given point in your life, you're going to put time, effort, and energy into that. And most likely you're going to be good at it. I mean, I'm pretty confident that people have capability. So you're going to be good at whatever you focus on. Whatever you do repetitively, whatever you have your interest in, and whatever you're motivated to do, you're going to get good or better at that. And we should all respect everybody's area of focus. And just be honest when you have a handicap in an area or you're weak in an area. And what I'm tired of seeing is people who are weak in areas trying to argue. They're the most loudest people out here. That's why I had to start a hashtag, kill the noise. Kill all that noise. That's all it is, a bunch of noise. It's a bunch of noise. We got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. What's that song? Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Hold up. How does it go? Got to know when to hold it, because I'm not trying to sing. Because if I sing it, then I'll remember the lyrics. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Know when to something, know when to walk away.
Know when to walk away, know when to run.
Yeah, there you go. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. All right. There you go. People gotta adopt that. People gotta deal with that when it comes to these things. Cause you can ask questions, like to question something don't make sense, but questions come from a place of not lining up the logic. So if somebody's telling you something and there's a break in the logic in your understanding of it, those things should trigger questions. That's what triggers a question. And depending on who's on the other end of that, they should be able to square you away with an answer or something. But people in the circus community, a lot of people have issues of learning in an adversarial environment. So they can only learn by being your opponent or an adversary. And so they disagree with you just because that's how they learn. So instead of them just coming and just being humble and just being real and saying, hey, and just ask a question and allowing you to, enlighten them or whatever, do your best to enlighten them, they have to come challenge you and become adversarial and do whatever it takes to maintain that one up or that ego, that inflated ego, so that they won't feel like you're sunning them or that they're beneath you or below you. And those are people who have insecurity issues, psychological issues. And there's a lot of that going on. And so this is why we say we have some older videos. We start off with speaking about character, having good character. To be a really good student or a teacher, an educator or a teacher, you have to have good character. And even to be a good researcher and a good student, you have to have good character, because you have to understand how to accept and be real, and be able to absorb and learn. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It's not a sign of weakness, but people see it as a sign of weakness.
Yeah, for the most part, especially with this conversation, it's just people just front a lot. It's like, there are some things like you can learn a few things quickly. There are some skills that you can learn very quickly within a week, and you get by. But people just won't accept that you can't be good at everything, and that's the problem. Is people expecting themselves to be actually masters of every kind of field of study, which is just a lie that people tell themselves, especially when it comes to studying any culture, African cultures, other civilizations and things of that nature. This is why you have like university level where people get degrees out of this. You're not going to walk in and just study for a week, or quickly Zoom, Google something real quick, while on a panel, and then come in and then just start speaking and arguing, but people, they try to make it like, well, whatever it is y'all doing, I can quickly learn and then come and argue with you. And it shows all the time. Like even you're trying to explain the simple point of identity and what makes an Egyptian, like that, you don't even need that should be like a minimal understanding even before you start to learn culture, because you're not going to discuss any type of culture. It doesn't matter if you're talking about Mediterranean culture, if you're talking about some African culture, some Scandinavian culture. It doesn't matter. As soon as you're studying culture, you really, at the basic level, you have to understand what identity is, because you're literally studying a people, and their culture. So for somebody to not even understand the point of identity, and I'm speaking specifically when it came to you explaining this to Corey on this last show, and also I've heard you try to explain it on our show when he's been on our show, and also on the Pseudo Killers show. If you can't really understand that, you have no business trying to discuss any type of culture, let alone argue with people who spent years studying that particular culture. If you don't understand that very, very basic thing, and we always add, obviously that's very basic, but you do actually need to learn a little bit of the language, and also when you're reading stuff, you have to be able to analyze what is being said, and literature review the history behind it and all that kind of stuff. But I'm actually perplexed that at the basic level, he does not understand what identity is, and that is actually sitting there having arguments about a culture and people's identity.
Yes, indeed, and this raises a point. And like I said, for anybody who's tuned in, I'm just doing a brief after show from the Real Black Atheist Bobby West, doing a presentation about racism in early Egyptology. All right, so y'all go check out this show. It ended, and I'm just doing a continuation because I hopped on at the end. And but I want to say something to that point, Miket. Identity, and I say this all the time. We have it in our videos and things, and I know people don't our videos don't get a lot of exposure. But if you go in our archives, you'd be surprised at how much stuff that we talked about years ago that people are talking about now. But over and over again, I always repeat that identity is multi-layered, and we have to be careful of what layer is applicable to any given conversation, the context of these conversations. So what you have to ask the question, what makes a people a people? What distinguishes one group of people from another group of people? And so the answer to that question can reveal the fact that there are multi layers to all of that. And you have to be mindful of what layer is what. And so we have what's called ethnography and ethnology. And it comes from ethnic or ethos, or ethnos in Greek, as far as a Greek word. And that's kind of paired up to the word tribe. people don't like to use the word tribe because the connotation of the word tribe has, over the years, it's become it has this concept of backwardness or uncivilized, wild and untamed, undomesticated, uncultured. That's what the word tribe and tribal connotes to now, nowadays, over time. So we think of a tribe, you think of somebody primitive who don't, a group of people that's primitive, don't have any modern technology, no modern gadgets, electronics, don't have electricity or whatever, living somewhere out there with nothing from nothing, basically. That's what the word tribe and tribal kind of brings to people's minds. So a lot of people shy away from the word tribe and tribal and things. And so the term that since kind of replaced that is ethnic group. That's more of a politically correct way of discussing these things. And so but it's, what's interesting about that is the word ethnic comes from the Greek word ethnos, which has the notion of nation. But it doesn't mean nation in our sense today, where a nation is a legal entity, a polity of, almost synonymous with a country. Like nation is synonymous with a country in our heads today. But nation, in terms of the Greeks' view of the word ethnos, is a group of peoples defining borders that make them who and what they are and distinct from another group that belongs to another nation or another ethnic group, from the word ethnos. So you have two groups of people, right? Let's just say you have two groups of people, and these two groups of people, let's say they're 1,000 each in each group. Group A is distinct enough from Group B to see themselves as distinct. And so what happens is identity on that level becomes an organic, realized consciousness where the people realize that they are the same. But that sameness is based on a list of elements. And then the same thing for Group B. And so these distinctions that are made, and so you have to ask yourself, in any given situation, what makes a member of Group A a member of Group A? Now, I'm only saying Group A because I'm trying to stay away from any labels, because I don't want to trigger things in anybody's mind. But we have to ask the question, what makes a group of people that group of people? What makes them distinct? And so if we ask that question and we fill in the blank in terms of whatever group we're analyzing, so for example, the ancient Egyptians, what made the ancient Egyptians the ancient Egyptians? What made them that? What made them distinct enough to be identified as such and distinct from other people? Once you answer that question, then a lot of the arguments go away. You'll see that race is unnecessary. DNA is unnecessary. It doesn't even apply. Race doesn't apply. DNA doesn't apply, or any of that. And you'll start to focus on actually what does apply. And one of the biggest elements out of the list is language. Culture, and we know culture is made up of elements. So whenever we say culture is not this single element, this single thing. Culture is a composition of many things. Okay, and so we got to be careful of just tossing that word culture around. Or at least we have to understand that culture is made up of a list of items. And high on that list in terms of value is language. So much so that in times of antiquity, if you did not speak the same language as a speech community of people, you were not of that people. Okay? That's how potent language was in terms of the requirement to be considered part and parcel of a group of people. You have to speak their language. Period. Now, there's other elements, of course, but I'm saying language was a very, very important element. If you could not speak the language of the people, you are not a member of those people. That's it. That's how the line is drawn right there. All right, so this notion of race is, our concept today of race, the categories, and we have to understand this. Okay, we have roughly 7 point some billion people on the planet Earth, on our planet, right? Race is a social construct, and it's a real social construct. I mean, it's real. Like, people want to say race is not real or whatever the case is. It's real. Like, I don't know why people say it's not real though. I mean, it's like they're confusing the thing. Like, it's not something that you can go buy in a store, of course, or put on your shelf. It's not a tangible object. It's not a tangible object, but it's a real phenomenon. But here's the thing. Race, okay, put it this way. As human beings, since we became human beings, since the dawn of humanity, we have had a need to categorize things. And we categorize different modes of existence. It's called ontology. Ontology is the study of the categorizations of existence. Then you have what's called taxonomy or taxa. You got human taxonomy, biological human taxonomy, and stuff like that. But taxonomy as an umbrella term, also Amber Alert. I wonder if Amber. Oh, this is, I guess, a Georgia Amber Alert. Make sure ain't nobody being kidnapped that I know. You have just a general idea of taxonomy. Taxonomy is also a categorizing phenomena, but in layers of something, hierarchy. And so what race is someone's attempt to categorize human beings, to put human beings, all 7+ billion people on the planet, into categories. But you have to look at the motivation behind that. What is the interest? What is the motivation? What is the pros? What's the cons? Who benefits from doing it in the manner in which it's done? So you have these races, and it's changed over time, because before you had 5, I believe it was 5, and they used colors as the labels, but you got to ignore the label. Okay. These categories do not qualify enough for identity, but we fall for it and we use it for identity. So, for example, black is one of the categories of race. Black is the label for a category, but let's just put a number on it. So category number 1 has been labeled black, but a group of people on the planet have been put into category 1, and then category 1 gets a stamp on it called black. And then the people in the group over time start to identify with that category and call themselves black, which is the label of the category. because they're not using the term black in a literal sense, because the people who call themselves black are not the color black. People call themselves black as a self-identifying marker to claim membership in that category. When you say I am a black man or I am a black woman, what you are actually saying is that I am a member of this category. And so then that forces you to say, wait a minute, who created the categories? And why am I identifying with this one and not the others? Why do we have this thing to identify with that one? Because so what is attracting us to identify with that category? Is it the label BLACK, black? And we've been bamboozled to think that we got this literalism, like, okay, wait a minute, we're confused, like, okay, I'm not the color black, but I am black. So we have to be aware of this, and once we become aware of it, we'll see its usefulness, and then where it's detrimental and where we shouldn't be using it, and things like that. So to bring all that stuff for the ancient Egyptians, or we talk about, people of antiquity or in history or whatever the case is, even today, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anything. So back to the question though, what makes a group of people a group of people? Is it the color of their skin? No. And I'm gonna tell you something. What's crazy? I had a conversation not too long ago, where I was talking about this very topic, right? And I was saying, hold on one second, y'all. I was saying that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would be turning over in his grave if he was a fly on the wall in these conversations on the YouTube streets, on the social media platforms, when race comes up in these conversations. Because people are arguing these points counter to his stance and his motive and his what he championed. Dr. Martin Luther King is famously known for saying that a people should not be judged by the color of their skin, but rather by the content of their character. But here we are today, bringing up the people's skin color to judge who is who, and not the content of their culture. Because these people are not alive, so we can't judge the content of their character. But to judge the character of a group of people, you have to deal with their culture. And so to say it, to bring that into the conversation, Dr. Martin Luther King would be telling people today, saying, hey, why are you judging the ancient Egyptians or bringing up the skin color and things like that into the conversation? And why not judge them by the content of their character, but not their character, but the content of their culture? And that is the issue that people have a problem with, because it causes you to do work. Because if you stay on the color thing, you just look on the walls. None of them are black. 99% of the male figures on the walls of ancient Egypt in all of Egypt's existence are not painted black. They're painted a reddish brown color. It is a form of the color Desher, which is the word for red, or the category of colors that fall into what we call red today. A reddish brown. All right. That's the majority of the paint or pigment that was used to paint the skin of figures in Egyptian art. That's it. Nobody could deny it. You can Google Egypt artwork all day till you blue in the face. Until you black in the face, I should say. and you'll be hard pressed to find Egyptians painted with the pigment color black. So it's not about that. It wasn't like that for them. It shouldn't be like that for us in these conversations. But remember, race is simply a way to categorize human groups. You remove the labels, just number them. Group 1, group 2, group 3. However many races there are, just put a number on them. And ask yourself, what is the inclusionary and exclusionary rule for these different groups? Because remember, category by definition, it includes a law. A category has with it a law, or a requirement, which allows something to be in the category and exclude things from the category. So, for example, if I have a category called blue shirts, that means that everybody in the room that has a blue shirt on is included in the category. But people who don't have a blue shirt on is excluded from the category. So every category has built within it, inherent in it, an inclusion and exclusion rule. And so the race, the social categories of race is no different because they are just categories. So what are the rules of inclusion in group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Forget the labels for a minute. And once you dive into that and do research on that, you'll find that these categories were set up to perpetuate something. It is an agenda designed to perpetuate something. And depending on which group that you are put in, it's not looking good for that group. It's not to that group's benefit. And the group that we now call black is the bottom group. It is the group that is least beneficial from the whole racial categorical system. We get the less benefit from this grouping schema, this social construct of race, that whole schema. We get the shortest end of the stick. And I only say we with the air quote we, because we tend to identify with this bottom class group. It just happens to have the label black, which is a color term that we have accepted and swallowed to the point where we are proud of it. And I don't know about you, but in any other circumstance, and any sane person would never be proud of to be of something that is detrimental to themselves. The only way somebody's going to be proud to do something that's detrimental to themselves or be a part of something that's detrimental to themselves and be sane at the same time is if they just don't know it out of ignorance. Anybody who knowingly does that, there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with them. And this is an awareness that we just gonna have to get. And I know it's hard to understand this because when it comes to identity, that's something that is very, very personal, like inner being type personal. And so whatever you identify with, it becomes you. And for instance, people identify with information, and it becomes personal. And so what happens is, if they make a claim online and they identify with that claim personally, then anytime somebody comes and scrutinizes the claim, the person who made the claim takes it personal and then swear up and down that you're attacking them. And real scholars, real students of information, real scientific minded thinking people never do that. You never identify with information. You never swallow information to where it becomes the part of the inner you. Like, you never identify with information. Because if somebody attacks the information, they're not attacking you. So back to the black thing, we have swallowed the concept of black as a category, as an inner personal identity. So conversations like this, like what I'm saying right now, may be offensive, or it may rub people the wrong way. And I understand that, because I've had these conversations for a good while now. And I get it. I understand. But at the same time, no matter where I have these conversations, no matter who I have these conversations with, I have never, no one can or has refuted what I'm saying. It's just something that you just don't like, because we don't have anything to replace it. Because people try to fast forward, be like, well, Joe, what it sounds like you saying is that we shouldn't be black, that we're not black, I'm like, see what you said there? We're not black. You think I'm saying we're not black, and the only reason why you're saying that you think I'm saying we're not black is because you actually identify as being black, but you don't even know what that means. Like, really, outside of tradition, the fact that people do it, you do it. Before it was black, BLACK, it was negro, which means black. Parallel to that, colored. Parallel to that, African. So whether we call ourselves African, whether we call ourselves colored, whether we call ourselves Negro, whether we call ourselves black, all of those terms have been function-wise as a categorical demarcation. And it has always been, no matter what term we use, like right now we say African American. We say African American because we're trying to take the flat black concept and drill down a little bit more, and we're trying to tread on the ethnic level. We're trying to move from the racial level and go to the ethnic level, the level of ethnicity. And so African American serves more as an ethnic designation than it does a racial designation. And we haven't solidified that quite. That's something that's still even currently in the making, because people don't understand the difference. So people want to use it interchangeably, African American, black. What's going on, Rasan? Rasan, join the panel. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. So I'm gonna keep on talking, but I want to acknowledge you on the panel, but you got to sort out your audio. So, and I'm not gonna be too long, y'all. I got 9 minutes. actually. So just real quick. So the thing is, and I just hope people get this. Okay, maybe I heard something now. Rossan, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me well?
Oh, I hear you, but you sound like you're far, like you're away from the microphone.
Try something else.
Yeah, you sound very low. Okay, so I don't want it to be a dead space. So I'm gonna keep talking. Just feel free to
Right.
interrupt when you can. So what I'm saying is that due to knowledge on the birth of the of the modern social construct of race, find out how it started and how it unfolded, even to how many categories were there. I believe it was five. This is something that I dealt with a while back, so it's fuzzy in my head off the top of my dome. So somebody can correct me, or whatever the case is. I believe it started out with five different designated categories that human beings were put in these categories, and it was done at a time, and it was leveraged by people to create a bottom class of people that would act as the footstool of everything else. And so they gave these different levels names, but they're color names. So black being at the bottom and white being at the top. They had red, yellow, black, white, red, yellow, and I believe brown. I believe those are the five color labels for the five categories. And somebody can correct me. 'Cause like I said, this is something that I dealt with like years ago. But those color terms were not literal. They were just proxies of of um of labels for these different categories. And black has always been at the bottom. Okay, so no matter who or what group is at the bottom is black. And so this system, this hierarchical system, was leveraged by those who are on the top levels, white. And it's still this way to this very day. Now we will call this phenomenon and the leveraging of it, we'll call it different names. We call it racism, white supremacy. Where white, not the skin color, because white people, the people who we call white people, they're not literally white either. Like black people are not literally black. But it's the people in this classification, this category. This category was deemed supreme, and we call it white supremacy because it's the category that sits on top of everything else. It is in a position of supreme. It is the highest category. But the way it is leveraged and it treats the lower categories, we say racism, white supremacy. And the acts on it, the execution of it is what we see and what we complain about and what we fight against. And so until we realize that this is a hierarchical class system and that we are self-identifying. We're not even forcefully identifying any longer. We're voluntarily self-identifying with a class that happens to be at the bottom. And we identify it proudly. Say it loud. I'm at the bottom class and I'm proud. That's what we're saying. Say it loud. I'm at the bottom class and I'm proud. But we don't say it like that. We say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. The black man is God. So we know that there's a problem. So we have to bypass all the other layers and we say, well, the black man is God. The black woman is God. knowing that we're not functioning as gods in whatever way you conceive of God. Because at the very least, a God is in control of things. And we collectively do not have agency. We don't have agency. We don't. How can you be God and not have agency? God, by definition, in many concepts of groups of people around the world, is the ultimate agent. Whether he's called the what do you call it? The demiurge, the whatever people call God, that thing or that entity or that whatever has agency. So how can a black man and black woman be God, but yet we don't function and have agency in our functioning? We're not in control of our 360 destiny, functions, what we do, and everything like that. So that's just being real. So it sounds good. We're gods in the making, or it's something to aspire for. That's not where we're at now. And it's crazy for us to believe that we're something that we're not, because what that does, that's detrimental, because what that does, it stops you from fighting. Because here's the thing. If you were the number one athlete in, let's just pick a sport. Let's say the 100 meters. If you were the world record holder and the fastest person and the number one athlete in the 100-meter dash, then you have arrived, and you're not going to fight for it because you already got it. But if you're 100th on the list of 100-meter runners, if you're in 100th place, you're going to be hungry and you're going to fight for first place. You're going to fight. You're going to train. You're going to train and you're going to fight. You're going to do whatever it takes. And you're going to be hungry and you're going to be thirsty to get number one. But if you're at 100 in 100th place, but you believe you're in first place already, you're not going to be hungry. You're not going to fight for it. And you're not going to do whatever it takes to become first because you believe you're first already. So going around acting like we're God or gods and goddesses and this, that, and the third, and act like we got agency when we really don't, is detrimental, because as a whole collective, we're not going to fight for it. And this is what people from other countries, they come here to the United States of America and they see the condition of, quote unquote, the air quote, black people in America, African Americans in America, and the sentiment of foreigners coming here and their opinion of black people in America is that black people in America are lazy, or they're not hungry, they're not fighting for it, because people come from other countries and they come here and they are go-getters. They make stuff happen. Now this is their perception. And I'm not speaking for everybody. I can't do that. So don't do that to me. I'm not pretending to speak for everybody. This is the preponderance of the sentiment. If you take a survey and you talk to people, this is the perception. This is the running stereotypic perception out there, that people in this country, black people in this country, have a sense of laziness about them. This is a perception of foreigners coming here, no matter where they come from. I have friends, I know people from multiple different countries that come here, and they're first generation, directly here, went through red tape, gained citizenship or whatever the case is, and they be doing like whatever it takes to do whatever. And in these conversations, this is what they say. Now, of course, it's not the sentiment of everybody, but like I said, this is the sentiment of the stereotypic perception. Because we, do not, and I do the air quote, we are not fully plugged into the reality of what has happened and how it's happened and where we play our role in this. The social construct of race, the hierarchical class system, where we fit in, our agency or lack thereof, and all these different things. We don't even have a we. There is no we that's been defined. I'm saying the word we, but we really don't exist. The grouping, the we. The we is a first person plural pronoun, and we haven't defined that yet. And you can never use a pronoun prior to defining the proper noun, the substantive that it replaces. Who's the we? Is it just the flat black people? Because that's not how you define a people. No wonder it seemed like it's taking us forever to get certain things done, because we haven't defined who we, like the we. Now, what's interesting is that a group of people who are distinct and disparate people, they will organically create a unified identity based on having a common enemy. For example, I think President Ronald Reagan said this. If not him, it was one of those presidents, Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan or whatever the case is. He's quoted publicly saying that the different world leaders and countries would be in more unified existence if there was an alien threat to the planet. One of those presidents said that. And that concept is what I'm talking about right here. Because think about it. During the transatlantic slave holocaust, different groups of people were enslaved, kidnapped, and enslaved. And they were brought to South America, Central America, and North America. Those who were kidnapped and brought to North America, by default, organically, over time, and it was a short period of time, gained a consciousness of oneness. Why? Because they were all, even though they were separate, distinct people, when they were home in West Africa, when they were in their homes, in their home locations, they were separate. But when they came here, it didn't take very long for them to come to a realization of a group identity. And it's because they had a common enemy, a common circumstance, common events, and a common enemy. The slave owners were the common enemies. Slavery was the common event, and the torture and all the byproduct of the whole slavery institution was shared by all of them. And it's because of that, it created this consciousness of a oneness, of sameness. And that's what I mean when I think it was Ronald Reagan, when he said that the world leaders in these different countries and all this other kind of stuff, all these things will wipe away if the planet was ever threatened by an alien threat or something like that. And we can imagine that. That's logical, because whether it's aliens, not little gray aliens, but if there was an alien threat, let's say it was a comet. Let's say there was a big meteor, a big comet or big meteor headed for Earth that has the potential to destroy all of humanity. You best believe that every country on the planet, no matter how much that we argue and fight country to country and stuff like that right now, all that stuff will go out the window, or it should go out the window, because now everybody's life is at jeopardy. And so that's what happens during the slave Holocaust. every distinct ethnic group of people that was kidnapped and enslaved and brought here started to, over a short period of time, started to coalesce together, to aggregate and consolidate together, and saw themselves as Africans here in America, enslaved Africans here in America. And then over further time, another generation, another generation, another generation, to where we have today. And if you compare our situations today versus those closer to the actual events of the institution of slavery, we have actually fallen away from that trajectory of fighting for agency. And that's one thing I see people doing. They romanticize. Okay, Ross, I see you in here. Since I only got a little bit of time, I'm gonna go ahead and shut my mouth and see if we can hear you now.
Yeah, I think you still have. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I'm hearing like sound effects loud, but your voice is low. So wherever you must got to flip like whatever you think is a microphone.
How about now?
That's not it.
You on that?
Whatever you're moving around, I hear you moving like that right there. Whatever you move right there, whatever you're doing right there, it must be next to the head to the
Yeah,
microphone.
hold on. I got what it is. I got a couple of mics and the cameras in here hooked up to this thing, and I just got to. I can't really.
No, but here's the thing. Listen to what I'm saying. Wherever your mic is good to go, but you must not.
I get what
Okay.
you're saying. I'm
Okay,
actually
okay.
looking for the one that you can hear. It's
Oh man,
unfortunately,
you
I got a mess
got-
of.
You got like 100 microphones
He
in
got
there or
100
something.
he got 100 microphones on the floor somewhere, man. You got
Right. Over in the corner of
All you need is one mic.
yeah. You got just pick them all up. Just put them all together in a cup, man. Just hold the cup in your hand.
We got some wires straightening up to do.
Why you got a studio in there?
I'll just try to come through the phone like I did last time. How much time?
Yeah, come through the phone because I'm gonna let you give your commentary or comments, and then I'm gonna try to shut it. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. So I don't want to leave you hanging. So that's what I'm saying. So if you gotta come back in through your phone, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm coming.
All right, I'm gonna keep talking. So when you come in, just feel free. So anyway, I'm just so again, y'all tuned in. I appreciate anybody tuned in. I'm just having a commentary conversation after jumping off of Bobby West's Real Black Atheist channel, and right now I'm just talking about this notion of race. Race seems to be preoccupying our minds in all of these conversations. Who is who? Like, who is who on the planet Earth? How do you identify a people? What makes a people a people? And I think that we're being too shallow with it. Skin color is the most backwards way and shallow way of identifying a people. Genetics is the same thing. Nobody who really understands and deals with genetics does things like that. There is a such thing as a genetic population, but a genetic population is not the same as a social population. And remember, identity is a social construct, not a genetic construct. You know, people identify as a member of a group through social interactions and memberships and different elements. And your ethnicity is a byproduct of a culture. So you have culture as a cultural layer, then you have an ethnic layer, and so on and so forth. These are multiple layers, and people have to understand that. So we have to all understand that. Now, listen, I haven't been paying attention to the chat, y'all, and I apologize for that, because normally, if I plan to spend a long time on here, I would kind of interact with the chat. That's what it's about. But I didn't do that tonight because I was really just expecting people to jump on, continue the conversation. But I'm gonna have a conversation. If any of y'all had some things that you all were saying that I need to want to bring to my attention, I'm gonna go live again, probably tomorrow because tomorrow's Sunday. Well, isn't tomorrow Easter? Am I tripping? Tomorrow's Easter, right? So I don't know if people going. You know what's funny though? People on these YouTube street be swearing up and down that they not Christians, they not this and that. But let a Christian holiday come, boy. The YouTube streets be bone dry and bare, boy. It's gonna be silent on the YouTube tomorrow. Everybody gonna be in their Sunday best. Everybody's gonna be in church, boy. They're gonna be outside on the church grounds, doing the Easter egg hunt and stuff like that in their backyards, boy. I'm telling you. But they're gonna be taking that Holy Communion. They're gonna get that biscuit of bread. They're gonna drink some grape juice for the blood and the sacrifice, boy. Man, I'm telling you, everybody's gonna be MIA tomorrow. But no, I may go live tomorrow. So if anybody wants to pick up and share their thoughts on what I'm saying, cause listen, I'm used to having these conversations, and I know that these conversations are not. It's not one of the easy conversations that I usually have with people. It's not. So, and I already know that. But I know one thing though, nobody can refute what I'm saying. I mean, these things are not really set up to be refuted or not, but people can't argue in terms of refuting what I'm saying. In all of my experience, people just express their dislike of the idea, but they don't refute it. They can't. They know that race is a social construct, and a modern one at that. They know that race is a categorical phenomenon. It's to place human beings in a category. They know that race has become a proxy for lookership, and they try to anchor it in phenotype. And then they try to go below that to genotype. People are trying hard to unpseudofy it by trying to anchor it in science by way of genes, DNA conversation, and then phenotype. Genotype produce phenotype, phenotype produce race. That's the new thing now. But race is a proxy. It is not a scientific thing. It is not something that you're going to falsify. It's unscientific, but it is real, and it is used. It is used socially. So I don't want to get people to get it twisted as if and misconstrue and think I'm saying race doesn't exist. Race certainly exists, but it is simply a modern social construct that is used and leveraged by people that are on the top of that hierarchical system against those on the bottom. And it's inbuilt. It's like it's rigged that way. It's rigged that way. The top class or level has to have a bottom class in order to exist. It's almost like this. In order for a police officer to have a valid existence, there needs to be crime. In order for doctors to have a valid existence, there needs to be sickness. So in order for these higher classes to exist, there has to be a bottom. And so they need that bottom to always exist for them to always be at the top. And so lastly, I'm going to say this, and I see you, Rasan. Lastly, I'm going to say this. Imagine, okay, here's the thing. The way consumerism and capitalism works, or how we function within it, everybody can't be rich. Imagine if everybody was a millionaire. Do you know how much work would not get done? Because everybody would feel above and beyond certain work. Like who's gonna clean the bathrooms? Who's gonna be the janitor of a business if everybody's on the same level or perceived to really be on the same level? That would be so hard for us to adapt and just if everybody in a group just all of a sudden hit the lottery and had the same bank account. That would cause chaos right now until we adapt to that. But that would be crazy. Anyway, so Rasan, I think you here on your phone, so I'm gonna leave it to you to get your words in, and then I'm gonna close out. You there? Oh man, I don't know what you did, but I can't hear anything now. At first, at least you were real low. Well, listen, Rasan, just come on. I'm gonna be live tomorrow. I'm gonna go live tomorrow on this same subject. All right. So that goes for everybody, you know. So if any of you all want to if any of y'all want to, you know, have this conversation, continue this conversation, feel free to make sure you look out for the conversation tomorrow. I'm gonna bring this up tomorrow. All right, so we can continue this. All right, so I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to the chat, but if you hold your thoughts, jot them down if you need to, and bring it up tomorrow. It's like, I like having these conversations with definitely with level-headed people who we can kind of tease out the things, and that's cool. We have a good conversation. I think it's an important conversation to have, though, because it would really help out if people just gain a better understanding. And I'm not trying to proselytize or whatever the case is. I know people, have their ways and beliefs and stances and stuff like that. I would like to hear them out, but I'm very clear and I wear mine on my shoulder. On my like what you see is what you get. I'm gonna tell you straight up and down that talking or seeing things through the lens of race is detrimental, hands down. And I can make a solid case for that. And then it spills over in these conversations about Egypt, about all these different cultures on the continent of Africa, off the continent of Africa. We always end up talking about through the lens of race and this and that, which is crazy to me. It really is. That's something that somebody that a group of people did, and they did a good job at it to the point where it's affecting us today. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get up off here. So Rasan, hey, if you can still hear me, whatever it is that you were gonna say, hopefully you'll be able to you'll be around, tomorrow, chilling or whatever the case is. I don't know what time, but I'm gonna go live tomorrow. Just kind of be on the lookout for that. All right, I appreciate everybody else tuned in on the channel. Stay tuned in. Make sure you subscribe because I'm gonna talk about this again. But then we're going to get back into some ancient Egyptian genius. All right, we're going to talk about some genius things the ancient Egyptian should be known for and dealt with and whatnot. All right, and I'm gonna start diving into the language, giving y'all some pointers and some clues about the language to see who among you all are interested enough in learning about the language, and then just come on board and learn the language. Therefore, you can learn the culture. That's the only way you're gonna become knowledgeable about the cultures by way of his language, unless you're just gonna believe any old scholar and whatnot. If that's your cup of tea, then hey, that's cool for you. All right, but listen, I appreciate everybody tuned in. Emmy Cat, I know you haven't said much, but do you have anything to close out on?
Yeah, no, I just know that this was an impromptu, so hopefully, looking forward to, the discussion tomorrow. And I've put the link on the chat for Bobby West's presentation because that was what precipitated this after party. And obviously on that, I think I didn't watch all of it, and it was, but the bit that I watched was was actually pretty good. So I would suggest people watch it. And then obviously, if once we get tomorrow on the show, then you can participate on that particular discussion a little bit better. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so again, I appreciate everybody tuned in. This has been the Sesh. So, we've been talking about race a bit because of Bobby West's presentation. And so I'm going to fire up another one tomorrow, and we'll have an open discussion about it. All right, so good day in the fair, and enjoy the holiday weekend for those who celebrate. Have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Hotep.
You said that when you go to Kemet school, you became more alert. You made wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. When you study what we call classical studies, we must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Netcher. So the most achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.